Is living in Ecuador cheap or is it expensive? Today, we're gonna take a look at the cost of living in Ecuador for a month. In order to understand the cost of living in Ecuador for a month, we're going to take a detailed look at how much you'll spend on rent, utilities, transportation, food, healthcare, as well as extra expenses you may have here in Ecuador. And a quick disclaimer, keep in mind that all of these values are going to be averaged out because exact values will vary from person to person. And also remember that the values that we'll be focusing on here will be for living comfortably in Ecuador. Not like a prince and not like a pauper. So let's get started. In order to adequately talk about rent, let's take a look at 3 different cities here in Ecuador: Portoviejo, Guayaquil, and Quito. And also, at the end of this section, we'll take a look at a few factors that might influence the price of rent so that you understand what you might be gaining or sacrificing in order to get this average price. Starting off with Portoviejo, it is the capital city of Manabi. It's a city where mainly governmental functions run through it, but it does have a beach, and the food is amazing. The average cost of rent is from $200 to $250. Moving on to Guayaquil, it is the biggest and most populated city in Ecuador. The average price to rent a comfortable place in Guayaquil is from $500 to $800. And then, quite possibly the most well-known city in Ecuador is the city of Quito. The average price to rent a comfortable place in Quito is from $450 to $600. Now that we know the average cost of rent in these 3 cities, let's take a look at the factors that influence the price of rent. The first factor is location. The closer you are to key places such as supermarkets or parks, or the closer you are to the center of the city, the more expensive the rent is going to be. Going hand in hand with the first factor is the second factor, which is safety. The closer you are to the middle of the city, the safer you are. And in that same sense, the closer you are to the outskirts, the more dangerous it is and also the cheaper the rent gets. The third factor is condition, which basically means the nicer the place is, the more expensive it is, and the less nice it is, the cheaper it gets. And the fourth factor to take into consideration is furnishing. Obviously, a place that comes with furnishing is going to cost more, while a place that doesn't is going to cost less. When it comes to utilities, water might be the cheapest of them all, coming in at around $5 to $15 per month. But this expense can end up becoming quite expensive if you have a cisterna or a water tank in your house. The reason for that is because when there's a drought or some other kind of problem with the water, you do have to call in a water tanker. These water tankers can cost from around $40 to $60, depending on the situation. Then, when it comes to electricity, this can also be one of your cheapest expenses, like it can also be one of your most expensive. The reason for that is that sometimes people pay $25 or less for electricity, but it all depends on how much you use electric appliances, such as air conditioners or televisions. But remember, the electric bill can also go as high as $100 to $200. This mainly happens if you live in zones that are considered business or commercial zones. These zones tend to pay much more for electricity, so definitely make sure you ask your landlord before you rent in order to know if your zone qualifies as this kind of zone. And one more thing, even though it's not very common, there are places that don't charge you for electricity. These places are normally very small or just rooms for college students, so definitely don't expect too much out of them. Then we have internet. Internet can cost you from around $20 to $40 and above. Obviously, if you're paying much more for internet, you're gonna get good quality internet. But most of the time, I don't think you need it. $30 to $35 would be a good range, in my opinion. And then last, we have the cell phone plan, or the data plan, which can be from around $15 to $20, depending of course on how good you want the service to be and how many benefits it gives. There are plans that are higher than $20, but I don't think you need them, especially if you're trying to live on a budget. And $20 is fine because it gives you good coverage and more than enough benefits. As you can see, Utilities can vary a lot. So we're going to take the highest cost of water, which is $15. We're going to use $100 for electricity, since that would be expensive for someone outside a commercial zone, but normal for someone in a commercial zone. $35 for the internet, since I pay that much and can guarantee it's decent. And $20 for the cell phone plan, which I consider to be more than enough, which gives us a total of $170 in utilities. So let's start off with buses. Buses are the cheapest form of transportation, ranging from 35 cents to 45 cents. But in order to reach your destination, sometimes you will have to take 2 buses, so let's imagine the price being from 70 to 90 cents. But then of course you have to imagine the trip back, which means you would be spending about $1.40 to $1.80 every time you use the bus. So if the bus costs you $1.40 a day and you use it 7 days a week, that would be $9.80. And in a month, that would be $39.20. But if you're paying $1.80 each day, then in a week, that would be $12.60. And in a month, that would be $50.40 using the bus. Now let's take a look at taxis, Ubers, or Uber-like services. These can cost from $1.50 to $2.50 per ride. It's hard to get an exact amount on how much a taxi or an Uber might cost because it's going to depend on the city you're in and obviously how far they're taking you, but these are average prices. And also, don't forget you have to plan your trip back, so you'd have to take 2 taxis, which would equal up to $3 to $5 every time you go out in a taxi. And if you take a taxi every day of the week at $1.50 each ride, remembering that you need to take one there and one back, that would equal $21 a week. And in a month, that would equal $84. But if each ride cost you $2.50 or $5 to and back, then in a week, that would be $35, and in a month, that would be $140 using taxis. But that's only assuming you go out every day and use a taxi every day. So for the totals, we're going to use half of the more expensive value, leaving the cost of transportation by taxi at $70. Now let's talk about personal forms of transportation, starting off with a motorcycle. Just to average it out, filling up your motorcycle each week can cost you from around $5 to $6, which means that in a month, you could be spending from $20 to $24. And if you have a car, you have to imagine that you're gonna spend from around $20 to $25 every 2 weeks, which would equal up to $40 to $50 per month. For food, we're gonna focus on main meals because snacks and otherwise are very hard to calculate. And in light of that, we're gonna focus on 2 main meal routes. The first route is almuerzos, which are literally translated to be lunches. These lunches are full course meals. They come with a soup, a main dish, and something to drink. For the almuerzo route, we're gonna imagine that every day you eat 3 meals that are the same price as an almuerzo. An almuerzo costs $2.50 to about $3.50 a pop. That means that for the cheapest route, if you were eating 3 lunches a day at $2.50 each, you'd be spending $7.50 per day. In a week, that would be $52.50. And in a month, that would be $250, living off only the cheapest form of almuerzos. But if it cost you $3.50 per lunch, that would be $10.50 per day, which in a week would be $73.50. And in a month, it would be $294, living off the more expensive version of almuerzos. But now let's take a look at the second route. And the second route is going out to eat, but ordering platos a la carta. These platos a la carta are basically menu items. They're different from almuerzos because almuerzos are typically mass-produced. On the other hand, platos a la carta, you order them and they prepare them after they've been ordered. These dishes can go from around $5 to $10. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna focus on an $8 average. So if you order 3 platos a la carta a day, that's $24. In a week, that's $168. And in a month, that's $672 ordering platos a la carta. Not exactly the most frugal option, but if you come from a place where your dishes are always from $10 and up, then this isn't actually that bad. And for anyone wondering why I don't go down the cooking at home route, excuse me? That route is very ambiguous. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, such as ingredients, the electricity used, the time you spend on cooking. So that route might be the most expensive of them all, like it might be the cheapest. But there's no way to guarantee the exact thing because I'm not sure what your exact needs are. So let's just stick with the other two routes, which come with complete meals. Thank you. Healthcare in Ecuador is a very broad topic, but not everyone goes to the doctor every month. But still, health is very important. So that's why for this section, I will give you the average cost of a general checkup, the average cost for a specialized checkup, and the average cost for a dental checkup. But the monthly value that I will be adding at the end of the video as part of the monthly expenses will be the monthly expense of how much it costs to be a part of the IS, which is the Ecuadorian Institute of Social Security. And we won't ignore the other values, they will be added as part of extra expenses. So first, a general checkup in Ecuador can cost you an average of about $15. A more specialized checkup, such as going to the chiropractor, can cost you an average of about $60. And then for a normal dentist checkup, the average price is around $20. As for the IS, in order to obtain your Social Security, you have to pay 17.60% of the Ecuadorian minimum wage. Since the Ecuadorian minimum wage rose to $450, the amount you would have to pay at the IS is $79.20. Now, one small thing to note about that 17.60% is that the IS asks you to place the value of what you earn when signing up for your Social Security. Basically what this means is that the value you pay could end up being much higher if you place in a value that's higher than the Ecuadorian minimum wage, such as, for example, a pension, or if you're doing a job that pays you much higher than the Ecuadorian minimum wage. Unfortunately, I can't confirm if there are any legal ramifications for placing the Ecuadorian minimum wage, even if your pension is much higher or if you're working a job that's much higher than the minimum wage. But if it's something you're interested in me researching, then please leave a comment down below. But before we end this section of healthcare, there is one thing you need to know, and that's that public healthcare is free for everyone, Ecuadorian or not. But remember, the fact that it's free can come with its own problems because a lot of people take advantage of the fact that it's free, and if you need an immediate checkup, you might be in trouble. That's why most people prefer the IS or going to a private doctor. Extras are expenses that, for the most part, you can completely avoid, but they may be a very important part of your life. For example, eating out. When it comes to eating out, it depends on who you're with, of course, and where you go, but each time you go out, you can expect to spend from around $10 to $20. Drinking with friends. You don't have to go out and drink, but if you do, it can cost you from around $5 to $15 because most of the time, the whole group chips in, so it does end up being quite a cheap outing. Going to the cinema. That can cost you from around $7 to $15. $7 if you're going by yourself and just watching the movie, and $15 if you plan on buying popcorn and a drink. Maybe you want to buy some clothes. That can cost you from around $10 to $25, depending on what clothes you're buying and how much clothes you want to buy as well. Maybe you want to get strong and go to the gym. Most gyms offer memberships from $20 to $60. The price will vary depending on which city you're in and obviously the quality of the gym. You can pay daily in most, if not all, gyms, and that would cost you about $1.50 per day. If we imagine you're going every weekday, that would be $7.50 a week. And since there are generally 4 weeks in a month, that would be a total of $30 per month. So in some cases, it might be better to just get the gym membership. If you happen to need medicine, you can buy certain medicine individually. So some medicine might cost you $1, but more expensive medicine can go up as high as $20 or more. And since medicine is such a random value, let's just assume that each month you could be spending about $20 in medicine as an extra expense. So we'll use that for the final calculation. There are also two really big extra expenses that are really hard to go into detail because of how many things are included in them. And these two are traveling to another city and going to the beach. When taking any of these two into consideration, you have to think about a vehicle to get you to the place. Then you have to think about the food that you're gonna eat. You also have to think about the lodgings and whatever tiny extra expense that you might need when going to these places. But for now, let's put a good average for these two. For the beach, a good average would be anywhere from $50 to $100 to go to the beach for a day. And if you're planning on staying in another city, a good average could be from $100 to $150 to spend a day in that other city. Of course, the price for any of these two places could be much higher or much lower. But for now, we're gonna take the average, which is about $75 to spend a day at the beach and about $125 to spend a day in another city. We can see the exact values for spending a day at the beach or spending a day in another city in a different video. So let me know down below if that's something you'd like to see. These are the highest, lowest, and average costs for extras. We will be using the average cost for the totals, and checkups won't be added because, as I mentioned before, for most, those aren't a monthly expense. Now it's time for the totals. And for this section, we're gonna focus on the following. The average cost of rent for each city, the total average cost of utilities, the mode of transportation we'll be calculating is taxi or Uber, since it's somewhat uncommon for someone who comes to Ecuador to have a vehicle immediately. So we'll focus on the safest form of transportation in the meantime, which is taxi or Uber. The food cost will be the average price of the cheaper and the more expensive almuerzos. We'll also add in the 17.60% of healthcare for the ES. And with that, we'll make the totals. One with the average cost of extras and one without extras at all, since these extras are completely optional. Any other totals will be shown at the end of the video. So if you'd like to see those, make sure you stick around till the end. So first, the total for Portoviejo with absolutely no extras is $794.20. If you add in the extras, that would be a total of $1,094.20, which would be much less if you exclude the trip to the beach or to another city, and it would be a total of $894.20. On the other hand, if we look at the city of Guayaquil, it would be a total of $1,219.20 with absolutely no extras. And if we include extras, it would be a total of $1,519.20, which again would drop down to $1,319.20 if you exclude the trips. And last, we have the total for the city of Quito, which if you exclude any extras, would be a total of $1,069.20. If you include the extras, it would be a total of $1,369.20. But once again, removing the travel, it would be a total of $1,169.20. And once again, remember that these totals are just an average that could change based on your personal situation or due to any circumstance that could happen during the process of this year. And here are the most expensive values from each section added up, so that you can have an idea what's the most you could possibly end up spending, as well as the cheapest values added up, so that you have an idea of the minimum you'll need to rent for a month in Ecuador. And remember, it's always good to come prepared, so make sure you check out this video next that has 22 tips that will help you prepare before you come. Make sure you take care, and as always, ace out. It's not even the afternoon. Why is there a helicopter? Carta a day. Is it a chainsaw?